breeze, severe gale 9 for a time, accepted summers. Rain showers heavily moderate. Time south and southwest, occasionally gale 8 for a time, rain for a time, good. Okay.
Good evening, guys, and welcome back to StormRider. I hope you're all doing excellent. I hope you're all positive, full of energy, optimistic, and looking forward to an interesting little video about my history with these beautiful watches, which most of you will know and love to be the CASIO G-Shock GA-2100 or 2110, depending on which model we're referring to specifically. Before I get into the video on that topic, I just want to do a little map mystery hunt again. People have been enjoying these. You're looking at the same map you have been for the past few videos. If I point my Apple Pencil to that point on the map specifically, can someone tell me what would be found there? At a certain point in the game, something pops up here. And a little bit of a clue, it has the same color as this watch here. So the first person to put the correct answer in the comments below will go on the StormRider honors list. Now, onward to the actual content of the video, which is my story about the GA-2100. So, yes, you will have seen I have 3 new watches. 1, 2, 3. Anyone who knows the history of my ownership with G-Shocks is that for a long time I was wearing the more rugged watches, such as the Mudman and the Rangeman and the G-1000. And then around about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, let me clean that a bit more. I came across a blackout GA-2100, and it is actually this watch. Now, this is my daily drive. This is my, what you might call beta. And I actually fell in love with this watch. I was very lucky to find it in a mall in Bangkok. I basically walked into the mall, noticed that there was a G-Shock store there. Obviously was very excited to see what they might have on offer there in a new region compared to my home, which is the UK. And yes, I came across this beauty. Now, the person in the store said, look, this has just arrived and there's only one piece in the shop and we don't know when another piece will come. I highly recommend you buy it if you're interested. Now, there was actually someone looking over my shoulder at the time and was making very interested sounds about the watch. I didn't know much about the GA-2100 at the time, but something intrigued me about it. So I dived straight in. I think I was very lucky. The watch had arrived that morning and I thought, you know what? It's very unusual. It's very unique in terms of G-Shocks and very unique in terms of watches in general, actually. And I purchased it for the RRP price of, I think it was probably around $80, $90. Now, this started an interesting episode where essentially this watch, or this model watch, became very, very special to me. As I say, it was completely unknown to me. In fact, it was pretty much unknown to the world at the time. I think it came on the market in around Q3 2019, and no one really knew if it was going to be popular. It certainly wasn't a big hit at the time, and it also didn't boast the usual plethora of typical tactical G-Shock functionalities, but it was somehow enthralling. So I've got to be honest, I put it on my wrist when I was in Thailand, and it really did not come off for many, many months. For those who don't know, the watch has the carbon core, which means that it's actually very strong. I mean, it is, being like one of the, if not the thinnest and lightest G-Shocks of the range, it's still very, very strong because it's got this carbon core. It can put up with a lot of abuse. It has 200-meter water resistance. It's got a quoted 3-year battery life, and it's got the complication with the weekdays here on the left-hand side, plus the time, and then it has this digital window at the bottom here, which just makes it very, very practical. Sometimes, I think I've mentioned this in the past, sometimes when you are relying on a purely analog watch when it comes to things like stopwatches and timers, it's not the easiest thing to read at a moment's glance. Whereas when you've got a digital readout as well, hidden down here, kind of out of the main limelight of the watch face, it just works really, really well. And you've got the date on there, and you've got world time as well. So for a very small and light watch, there was enough functionality there also to keep me interested. What I also noticed about the GA-2100, and I'm going to put it on my wrist now, my daily drive beta, is that it's incredibly versatile in terms of the what you can wear it with. So it definitely works smart casual, but also it works with a suit. I wear it with a suit to work on a regular basis, and no one bats an eyelid apart from if they give me compliments. Honestly, it gets a lot of compliments compared to many other watches I've owned. And again, one of the really intriguing things about this watch is that it somehow just became less of a... It made G-Shock become more of a kind of stylish fashion statement, I guess, rather than just the tactical, rugged watches that they are. And yeah, that made me really think, right, I want to get another one of these blackout GA-2100s, because at some point I'm going to wear this one so hard that I'm going to damage it. Now, I think it's been, it must be over 2 years now I've used this and owned it, and as you'll have seen in a previous video that I've put on, the only bit of damage I have is a tiny little bit of damage on the glass there, plus some kind of surface wear on the bezel, which certainly is not anything to worry about, and it's not something that couldn't be rubbed out, I don't think, or polished out. The rest of the watch is absolutely fine. It's a very basic strap, but I've had no problems with it whatsoever. You can see the two marks here on the strap showing that I've worn it a lot at different sizes, 2 different sizes depending on where my wrist was at the time. When I work out a lot, my wrist gets quite a lot bigger, and that's why I like these rubber bands compared to metal bands, because you can just change the setting on them very, very easily. So anyway, getting back to the fact that I wanted another one of these, what I soon realized was that, okay, it's not as simple as that. The reason being is that they were in huge demand at the time, and I believe they still are, in fact. You couldn't get one on the Casio website. You couldn't get one for, let's say, at least $200 if you're lucky dollars, probably $250. And I resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't prepared to pay that much for the watch at the time. But a few months ago, I put a video out there where I did come across another one at the right price. It was at the retail price, and I purchased it, and to be honest, it hasn't been out of its box since. It's even still got the protection on the buckle here. You can see it's absolutely brand new. And I must say, I'm very pleased I did get hold of it, because even months later, you can't really find these watches at RRP anywhere. The blackout ones, I mean, specifically. So this is going to be just honestly stashed away. It's the first time I've done that with a G-Shock, which I think says a lot. There's been no instances in the past where I've wanted to buy a G-Shock watch and just keep it in its box with all its tags like I have with this. But the reason I've done it with this one is because, honestly, I think it's an absolute classic, and I think this will be discontinued sometime, sooner or later. Maybe it already has, I don't know. And that's going to be a real shame when you can't buy them anymore. So I'm pleased to say I've got a backup option, and no doubt it will become a hand-me-down eventually. What was also intriguing about this watch, as it became a kind of bit of a grail, was that other colorways were coming out. There was a all red one. There was a pink and purple and white one, which Casey Neistat, if anyone knows who that is, he's a YouTube kind of cinematographer type guy, makes some interesting videos. He wears the white and purple and pink one. There was a black one with red and green highlights, and there was also a one very similar to this, but it had the white detail on the wording on the bezel there. Now, I was intrigued to see if the popularity was across the board or if it was just for the blackout. And what I seemed to see was that in general, the blackout was the one that was getting the most demand. And I think the reason for that is because of the subtlety of the fact that it doesn't have the word Gshock here embossed in a separate color like it does on these three. I.e., it's a little bit more of a gray man. It's a bit more stealth. Another reason why it works well with the suit, it's just got that subtlety about it, which doesn't shout out, this is a Gshock. And actually, as I'm sure you know, this has taken on quite a few different nicknames, very endearingly so, and that's because it does look like a much more expensive, or resembles to some degree a more expensive inner hyphens classier watch. Although to me, this is the watch I want and would always want. Now, flipping back to my daily drive briefly, I just want to say I haven't treated this watch with kid gloves. I often use that phrase, but basically I buy G-Shocks because I'm quite an active person. I wear watches hard, and to be honest, I tend to have a history of destroying watches just by like hard use. You might think I wouldn't be using this in some of the more testing environments. However, you'll see past videos I've done where I've had this specific watch in a sauna, in a jacuzzi, in the sea, in the sand, in heat, in cold plunge, and it put up with it all. There was no issues. There was no residue building up inside the, behind the face, behind the glass or anything like this. It's an absolutely solid beast, which kind of cemented my love for it. It proved that it really was the true kind of hybrid of like class and durability, or resilience. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. If any more colors do come up that interest me, I'll probably want to get involved with that. So on to the next stage of the story. So yes, I absolutely continue to champion the GA-2100, and I've been highly interested in videos that popped up in the past few months from the likes of Random Rob and Just the Watch, two other great channels, shout out to you guys, where they reviewed the different colorways of the GA-2100 or 2110, as some of them are now called, that have came out since the first kind of tranche of watches that came out with the blackout and the red one. Now, these are the three watches that really shouted out to me. Two of them, here and here, are called the Earth Tones. They're classed as the GA-2110s. This, however, and I'm just going to check the back to make sure I'm 100% correct on this. Yes, this is also classed as a 2110, although it's not called the Earth Tone. Now, the Earth Tone, as far as I understand, relates to the fact that you can see, hopefully in this light, a slightly different gradient of gray from here to the bezel. So the same gray all over, except the bezel, which is slightly darker. So it's like a two-tone effect on the gray, and I absolutely love it. I'll be honest, one of the things that it kind of triggers my memory to go to is the Top Gun kind of F-14 Tomcat type, that mottled gray effect of the different panels on the planes in slightly different shades of gray. I just think that's very, very cool. And also the other earth tone is this. It's blue with a slightly off-white, or you might call gray bezel. And I must say, it's just what I class as a handsome watch. It's a little bit more in your face than the gray, obviously. The gray's pretty subtle. However, this has just got a classiness about it, and that blue is one of my favorite colors, personally speaking. So it was always something that was on my radar. Then you had this, which, as I mentioned before, had been covered by Just the Watch, and I put a comment or two on his video, and he did this, just saying, look, I'm going to have to get hold of this watch in the future when I come across it, because I think it's very bold. However, it's just, for some reason, it just works for me visually. I'd never owned a yellow watch. I never thought I would, but actually, when I put it on my wrist and show, there's something I think that just works about this. So yeah, I have become the proud owner of a yellow G-Shock. I wasn't expecting that to happen, although I'm very pleased it did. Now, one of the differences between these two earth tone models here and the yellow is, if I just switch this around here, you will see the buckle on the strap. You will see this is blue, matches the strap, grey matches the strap, silver, metal, doesn't match the strap. And you'll see the similarity here on the original Blackout 2100. Now, I think that is probably simply a differentiation of the earth tone. So, yes, how did I come across these watches then? What happened? How did I get hold of them? Did I hunt for them online for months and finally parted company with a lot of money above the RRP? No, I didn't. This is the strange thing about G-Shock and Casio, that people get to know about them once they get in to be an enthusiast about it. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's coming. Basically, I walked into a mall last week, walked past the shop which I know normally sells G-Shocks. I generally know what's in there, but every now and again something will catch your eye, and I saw this first. I was like, oh right, I haven't seen this in the flesh before. I need to go and have a look at it. Immediately saw that it was in fact as good looking as I thought it was, and quickly put it to one side and said, you know, I'll be taking that with me. Have you got anything else? And then sure enough, within the store, these were sat next to each other, and that really was startling. So in one fell swoop, I came across these three watches, and it was a bit of an attack of the senses, actually, because anyone who knows G-Shocks and is enthusiastic about them will no doubt know this feeling when you see something for the first time in the flesh that you've been looking at on videos or photographs. It's pretty, let's say, it's one of those moments like, should I, shouldn't I? Do I really want to, can I justify buying this right now? With these three watches, it was one of the most easy decisions to date, not least because I went online to check the status of these. They're sold out across the world on the Casio, or they were sold out on all the Casio sites at the time. But also, interestingly, it said, and the wording, I just want to make sure I get the wording right. It said special color for these two models, but not for the yellow. Special color, and are now discontinued, I believe it said. I'm just going to open the link actually while I'm speaking. I'll put this link in the description below so you can see. Sorry, end of production. So with the grey and with the blue, these watches, as far as I'm aware, have only been out since, I don't know, maybe the Q4 2020. They're at end of production. So I believe that means they're no longer being made. It doesn't say that for the yellow one, although they weren't available when I checked online. But yeah, end of production. So I think that's it. You can't get them anymore, if I'm understanding the Casio website correctly. Again, check the link, check for yourself, make up your own mind. But in my book, I was like, okay, three beautiful watches. They were also being sold. There was a sale on at the time, of promotion. So there's 20% off all the watches. I managed to get these for essentially £70 each. And that was a done deal, and I walked out a very happy man. Out of interest, for anyone who likes this kind of these facts, the box of these is slightly different to the box of the original GA-2100, which was pure black. It's got this mottled effect. I quite like it, actually. The yellow one was actually in a slightly shallower box of the same color. The old blackouts were in a pure black Casio box, but they've still got the famous octagonal, is it? Tin. So yeah, these watches are very special to me. They speak to me. They're comfortable, light, unique, practical, strong. They have a rarity value to some degree, and to be honest, if I ever needed to, I'm sure I could sell them for what I paid, if not more, although that's definitely not the plan. I'm really happy to own these pieces, and I don't feel it was overindulgent because of how special they are for me. I kind of have this affinity with them because I kind of feel I was an early adopter to the GA-2100 and know that it's a serious bit of kit. And honestly, if you think about it, to own all three of these class watches for under £300, you can't really argue with that as a value proposition. So yeah, all good in my book. So what does the future have in store for my GA ownership, you might be asking? Well, I'm definitely not ruling out any more, although I do now own all the colorways that really appeal to me that are currently out there. It's all personal choice, and no matter how many times I look at the red version, I just can't do it. It isn't for me. It is a work of art in some ways. I think it's a very bold statement, that red GA-2100. But yeah, I've seen it a few times in the flesh, and I can't buy it myself. I just know I would never wear it. Whereas these ones, I know I certainly will. I'm sure more colors will come out, and I have to decide what category that falls into. For me, there's three categories of G-Shocks that I break them down in three categories as I see them come out. Category one is, oh wow, that's incredible. I've got to definitely buy that the second I see it, and there's kind of no ifs or buts about it. Category two would be, wow, that's really interesting looking watch. I'm going to have to see it in the flesh and really scope it out before I really decide whether or not I want to own it or not. And then category three is that kind of gray area where you know it's interesting. You can't really justify the price. If you see it at a really, really good promotional price, you might go for it. But yeah, these three all were in that category one. So in the future, if anything else comes out, I need to follow that same kind of logic. The other question is how these watches, the GA-2100 or 2110 now, will evolve. So recent interviews with the designers of the GA explain how its success was a surprise for them, but now they want it to develop and gain popularity. They see that it's going to be, that it is very popular with a younger crowd, and I think they probably want to kind of create a wider appeal. I definitely see that happening and understand a smaller version of this has been released in Japan, which I think is called the GMS-2100. So it's essentially, it's the line of G-Shock that's generally for women, and it's basically just like a 3/4 size, and it looks really nice actually. There's an all white, or it might be slightly cream version I've seen, and yeah, I think I may well be picking up one for my wife if I see one. She absolutely loves her GMS G-Shock. She's always telling me that she's so pleased she has it, and yeah, so I might treat her with another one at some time in the future. Of course, we would all love a tough solar version of the GA-2100, but I'm a realist, and I know in such a compact and light package, getting more functions in there is probably unlikely, at least for now. But that's the beauty of G-Shock and Casio. They aren't afraid to take risks, put things out there to disconcert the purists, and then the purists themselves change their positions over time. That was like me with these watches. I never thought I'd be buying a octagonal yellow G-Shock without solar. It wouldn't compute even maybe 3 years ago. Now I own 5 of the things. How crazy is that if you look at it in that way? I firmly believe that most people could own a G-Shock watch of some model now and be very content that they have a robust and stylish zero maintenance timepiece for a very fair price. And that is the value proposition that G-Shock give. There's just so much variety, so many different functions and options and colors out there right now that I defy virtually anyone to say, I don't like any G-Shocks whatsoever. There's got to be at least one out there for every person. It's just such a fantastic company, and that's why I'm so into them myself. I think it's just a wonderful philosophy that they have, and obviously they're always innovating and moving forward with their technology as well. So let's watch this space with anticipation. We will see that GA-2100 Mini coming out. And there's also a skeleton edition of the GA-2100, although I might be calling it that might be the 2110. So the skeleton edition isn't a Category 1 G-Shock for me. It's something that's interesting to it'll be something to interesting to look at, and maybe a collector piece, but it's not something that I would wear, I don't think. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to explain my story and reasoning to owning these watches. I hope you found it interesting. I wanted to give a little bit of a different approach to the, to the story of ownership of these things. It's very easy. I could have just done an unboxing video and said, I love this because of the color, but I want to give a bit more context. And I haven't worn these 3 watches yet, so I can't claim to know much about them yet in terms of having worn them firsthand. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a different perspective. Anyway, I hope you like the video. And if you do, please subscribe and like, it means a lot. And yeah, have a look, see if you can work out where I was referring to on the map. Just here, a fun little side project. Stay strong, guys. Stay positive, optimistic, and I look forward to sharing another video with you very soon. Take care. And I'll just leave you with a few photographs of the watches themselves.